Hey gang, it's time to initiate a bold new era in my channel with movie reviews.
Movie reviews, it's time to review movies!
Song of the South. And what better movie to begin with than the notorious and controversial 1946 Disney classic, Song of the South. But I was curious just how racist was this thing, because that's what everybody says, and that's what Disney says. We're not going to release that because it's all racist, so no. The material, the story in this movie is based on these old stories collected by this white guy, Joel Chandler Harris, but he got the stories from black people. Cultural appropriation certainly isn't something new to Disney. The movie itself is a mix of live action and animation. Think of other movies like Mary Poppins, and the stories that this guy, Uncle Remus, tells is really a framing sequence to dive into these cartoons. And the cartoon characters, though, I didn't find them that memorable. They're not quite as classic and archetypal as a lot of Disney characters. And on the other hand, they're not as wild as Looney Tunes characters. They seem like rejected Looney Tunes characters. The main storyline was a little more interesting to me than the cartoons because there were all these weird dialogue and weird camera angles and close-ups with soft focus. And there are all these like snotty little neighbor kids that the richer kid is like not really supposed to hang out with, and they're brats anyways, but he likes the sister, so there's all kinds of class struggle. The music is not really overwhelming. It's not really a musical. I hesitate to even call it a musical, but you probably know the main song, Zippity Doo Dah, whatever. And it's really a song about nothing, but it's a cool song. The other songs, I think there's 2 or 3, I don't remember them at all. Now the reason you're here, just how racist is Song of the South? Well, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to seek it out. You can find it not at your local Blockbuster Video, but at maybe your favorite BitTorrent site. You can find it fairly easily. The charge of racism seems to hinge on 2 points. One is that they don't say what year it takes place, and it does actually take place after the Civil War. And you can kind of figure that out if you stick with it, but if you think that it takes place before the Civil War, when slavery was still happening, then you're going to be like, why are these African Americans so cool with the white people and not getting whipped and things like that? What is going on? They seem like pretty jolly slaves, and they're even holding a candle vigil for this kid who gets hurt. What is going on there? What is that? Disney could have easily cleared this up by just putting a year at the beginning, like 1877, but instead they didn't. So if they ever do release it, just put that advisor on so people know they're not acting like slaves totally, because they're not slaves. Although obviously there was a lot of bad things still happening after the Civil War, a lot of lynchings, KKK, but this is a kids movie. I don't expect them to really get all the social justice angles in, and I think there's some other messages in it that make it a pretty heartwarming Disney movie. I think the other point that is kind of significant is that the way people talk, there is this especially in the 40s and 50s, people still thought that if you're from the country, if you're from the South, you're kind of a hick, you're kind of stupid.
You're right, Paul. The Hoppers won't be expecting no Bush to sneak up on them.
And if you're in the city, you're sophisticated, articulate, and you can speak like the Great Gatsby or something. But people can communicate with any accent. There's no superior dialect or accent. So that's just rubbish. And I totally get that for black people in the time this movie came out, they were really trying to show that they were capable of just as much intelligence, humanity, trying to escape that image of living on the plantation and just being not educated in the modern English speaking style. Also, I think there was this idea as groups like the Black Panthers and people like Malcolm X came to power, that the idea of living peacefully with white people, especially white people who had just enslaved you 10 or 20 years earlier, as in the case of Song of the South, was not something that people wanted to be cool with. They wanted to show that they were powerful and didn't need to get along with these white people to rely on them in any way. And as you watch this movie, you're going to see peaceful coexistence, and I think for the most part, I think it's actually pretty non-racist. It's showing that black people are just as capable, intelligent, can tell a good story about rabbits. There's times when Uncle Remus, he's not afraid to confront the white people, especially the bratty white kids. He's like, you kids. He's not afraid to be confrontational, to pick a fight, and use his subversive stories to overthrow the white empire. And I realized as he was telling about these characters, br'er Fox, br'er Rabbit, and br'er Bear, br'er just means brother, and it's kind of funny that there's a bear and a fox calling this rabbit brother, while at the same time they're trying to eat him. I think there's some kind of connection there between the relations between white people and black people, saying like, oh, you people, you're human, but you know, we're going to make you slaves. I think that's what Mr. Uncle Remus was trying to do. He's a very subversive guy. So my take, it's not a great movie by any means. I'm glad I saw it though. Zippity Doo Dah, good song. Other songs not very notable. And I think the performance though of Uncle Remus as the actor is I think his name is James Baskett, and he died within a few years of this movie, and he got the first Oscar that an African American ever got in Hollywood history. So it's kind of a big deal, and yet this performance not available to most people. I mean, it needs to include obviously some disclaimers, some historical context. Overall, I think this movie tries to show that black people can be friends and you can get along with them, and that they're not inferior, they're human beings and they deserve rights. So I'm curious about why this is so easily labeled as racist. But if you have an opinion, I definitely would love to hear it. Feel free to comment below. Feel free to subscribe too. I will be doing more movie reviews, and I will see you there.